Good morning, everyone. So before we get started, we are going to be getting back into our book, Maximize Your Potential for a More Spiritual Life. We are on chapter 4. Once this live is over, I will be uploading it to my YouTube channel. So if you if you aren't able to stay and watch the whole thing today or listen to the whole live today, you can always go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, and you can listen to the book there. Okay, how's everyone doing this morning? It's only 7:23 here, and it's already a beautiful day. I woke up to the birds singing, and it was just wonderful. Got a little meditation session, and I was just like on cloud 9. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to play this book for you all, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Alexa, open Audible.
Getting the selection from Danae's Audible library. Resuming Maximize Your Potential through the power of your subconscious mind for a more spiritual life.
Realization of health is, of course, your savior. If you are in prison, a prison of fear, sickness, or a physical prison, you desire freedom. Freedom would be your savior.
Let me know if you can hear this or not, okay?
God gave you your mind, hands to write and build,
Don't forget to
and the
like,
urge to achieve and express,
like.
plus the
There's
intelligence
31
and
people
capacity
here right
to do
now,
all
32
these things.
people. Can I get some likes, please?
If God gave you a voice, you don't ask, is it the will of God that I sing? Good heavens, go forth and sing. God gave you the voice. He gave you the organs, the vocal organs. The music may be in your soul. Go forth and sing. You don't ask, is it the will of God that I play music? Imagine saying, if God wants me to write a play, He will let me know. Nothing could be more absurd than that. Your idea or desire must be appropriated in your mind and felt as true. When it is accepted subconsciously, the subconscious will bring it to pass. That's the law of your mind. Your conscious wish or desire has now passed from mere wishing and desiring to a subconscious conviction. In other words, you don't pray for what you have. And if you are desiring health, true place, or a contract to sing, or whatever it might be, or an open door for your new invention, or you want it to be accepted and you don't have the money maybe, Infinite Spirit will open up the way for you for the perfect development of that idea. Like a seed, it attracts everything necessary for its development. For every desire has its own mathematics and mechanics with it. Therefore, you, knowing that, realize that Infinite Spirit opens up the way for the perfect development of your idea. Then you realize that it is God in action in your life, that your invention came to you from the infinite, and Infinite Spirit opens up the way. It does open up the way for you. Then you see the finished thing, and you can hear your spouse or some other friend congratulate you on the marvelous success of your invention. How wonderful it is. So then, you are gradually dwelling upon it. Gradually it will sink down like the way you learn to walk. You repeated a thought pattern again and again and again. After a while, you walk automatically, or you swim automatically. Likewise, you are nourishing this idea over and over again. You feel it. You rejoice in it. You dwell upon it. Gradually it sinks into your subconscious mind, and then it becomes a subconscious conviction. The law of your subconscious is one of compulsion, and the will of the subconscious comes to pass. The only power in the world that can say, I will, and mean it, is your subconscious mind. Alcoholics, when they have freedom established in their subconscious minds, are free. They have no desire anymore. Their will or desire has become God's will. It has become conviction. The subconscious brings it to pass. Not my will, meaning idea, desire, or plan, but thy will be done. It is your conviction or the impregnation of your deeper mind which automatically comes to pass. Very simple. A child of 7 could understand it. So, thy will be done. Yes, not my will, thy will. My conviction, the embodiment of my subconscious mind, must come to pass. Our subconscious convictions and beliefs dictate and control all our conscious actions. The subconscious is the power that moves the world. A man came to see me some years ago. He was an alcoholic. He said if he took one drink, he would be compelled to keep on drinking until he fell unconscious on the floor. In other words, he had lost control and was compelled by the law of his subconscious mind to drink. His story was a familiar one. His wife divorced him because of his infidelity. He had resented her action, hated her because she refused to take him back. So, he turned to drink to relieve the psychic pain, in the same way you might take aspirin for a headache. He repeated this act over and over again, and each time he took a drink to bolster his spirits, he was rejecting the power of the infinite within him. It was suggesting weakness and inferiority to his subconscious mind. Habits are formed by repeating certain thought patterns or actions over and over again until they establish patterns in the subconscious mind, where they grow until they reach the point of saturation. He now had a mental block in there established in his subconscious mind that reminded him repeatedly, "You need a drink." When he took one, he lost control. In the beginning, he had a choice. He could choose 2, 3, or 4 drinks, and that was it. But now, when he took a drink, he was off to the races. He had no control. He's lost control. The nature of the subconscious is compulsion. Whatever is impressed upon it is brought forth as form, function, experience, and event. Whatever is impressed, in other words, is expressed. It is very simple. This man reversed the pattern and freed himself by the use of the same law that made him a compulsive drinker. Regularly and systematically, he contemplated freedom and peace of mind, claiming that his food and drink were God's ideas that unfolded within him, bringing him harmony, health, peace, and joy. He ran a movie in his mind several times daily by imagining himself free, happy, and joyous. He pictured himself doing what he longed to do and heard a friend congratulate him on his freedom and sobriety and peace of mind. Whenever he was tempted, he flashed this movie in his mind, knowing that the power of the Almighty was flowing through this mental movie, and that by a process of mental and spiritual osmosis, the mental image was sinking down into his subconscious mind where it was developed in the dark room of his mind. Impressions are made on the subconscious by repetition, faith, and expectancy. As he continued faithfully imagining his freedom and peace of mind, the dawn came and all the shadows flew away. His conscious will, desire for freedom from the destructive habit, became his subconscious will, meaning a deep, abiding conviction was lodged in his subconscious mind. That's God's will. He was compelled to express freedom, for the law of the subconscious is compulsion. When you were young, you were probably given taboos, restrictions, and a series of don'ts. Maybe you were told it was the will of God that you suffer. When you were sick, maybe you were told that it was God's will that you got sick, or if you were bad, God is punishing you by an accident. These are things that parents still tell their children today, that God is punishing them because they were bad. When I was young, I was told that if I didn't go to church or say my prayers, something bad would happen to me. These are frightful beliefs. Awful. They contaminate and pollute the soul. They are based upon gross ignorance, stupidity, and superstition. Perhaps you were told that you were evil, and that you were a sinner, and that God would punish you. Perhaps you were told of a lake of fire waiting for you. Imagine someone saying to you that if you don't believe in a particular creed, you would burn for all eternity. What kind of love is that? Would you want anyone to burn for all eternity? If you did, or you thought that way, we'd say there is very little love. There is no love at all in that person's life. God is love. There is no such place. There never was a lake of fire. There are the fires of vengeance, of hate, of hostility operating in the human mind, burning up our tissues, gangsters in our own minds. You see them in mental institutions. If you want to see the lake of fire, you can go into any psychiatric ward and see it. Yes, it's the fires of hate, of hostility, and of vengeance, and all that. These are the gangsters and the devils that bedevil our minds. Surely, when you have gangsters in your mind, you don't have peace, harmony, or health. You have lost reasoning, and they are punishing themselves. So these are the devils, but love will cast them out. Many minds of children are contaminated, polluted with all kinds of strange notions and false doctrines. So, realize that God is love, and God wouldn't do anything unloving. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven is a wonderful prayer when you realize the meaning of it. Heaven means your own mind, or mental or spiritual awareness. It means the infinite intelligence within your being. It means the invisible part of you, the immaterial part of you, thought, feeling, and life. In him we live and move and have our being. You are alive. Well, God is life. It's not up in the sky somewhere. What you feel is true in the heavens of your own mind, and you shall experience it on earth, the objective plane. The earth is your body, your world, your environment, your pocketbook, your circumstances, your profession, all phases of your life. Your will is your capacity to define your objectives, to choose your goals, ideals, or plan. Live with it mentally by loving it, nursing it, giving it your attention and devotion. Finally, it becomes gelled within you. Your desert has become paradise. Your will has become God's will, or the joy of the answered prayer. God hath not given you the spirit of fear, but a power of love and a sound mind. Every day is a time of renewal, resurgence, and rebirth. All nature proclaims the glory of a new day. This is to remind us that we must awaken the God presence within us, arise from our long winter sleep of limitation, and walk forth in the morning of a new day and a new life. Fear, ignorance, and superstition must die in us, and we must resurrect faith, confidence, love, and goodwill. Begin now to take the following transfusion of God's grace and God's love. Say to yourself, with feeling, I am filled with the free-flowing, cleansing, healing, harmonizing, vitalizing life of the Holy Spirit. My body is a temple of the living God. It is pure, whole, and perfect. Every function of my mind and body is controlled, governed by divine wisdom and divine order. God, in the midst of me, is mighty to heal. The peace of God fills my soul. The love of God saturates my whole being, and God in the midst of me is guiding me now. In a nutshell, God is life with no beginning or end. So the tendency of life is to express itself. Life feels itself to be beauty, to be joy, to be harmony, to be love, to be wisdom, order, and beauty. It seeks to express itself through you. God is the life principle, and life is always seeking to express itself. It's seeking a holy receptacle that it might express itself at higher levels through you. The will of God is the tendency of life itself. The tendency of life is to express itself. The prayer, "Not my will, but thy will be done," is not a blind fatalism, but is the realization of that almighty power backing you up. As you realize this, and as you claim it boldly, then by repetition, faith, and expectancy, that desire or wish or idea of yours sinks into your subconscious and becomes a conviction. It is the will of God that we should all be healthy, happy, and joyous, and lead lives full of marvelous experiences. It is the will of the infinite that we should express more and more wisdom, truth, and beauty. We are here to express more of our divinity every day until we become the person that God intended us to be. A happy, joyous person, illumined and inspired, who walks the earth with the praise of God forever on our lips. The powers or forces of nature are not evil. They are neutral. Good and evil are the movement of our own minds, and the way we think and act, and the attitude we take towards things, not in the things themselves. Remember, you are a choosing, volitional being. You have choice, intention, inclination, determination, and there is a tendency of the life principle to express itself through you. You have freedom to love, freedom to give it, freedom to retain it. You are not an animal. You are not governed by instinct. Choose ye this day who you will serve. You are a choosing, volitional being. You have initiative. You have incentive. Yes, you have the capacity to choose, as we said, to select and arrive at a decision through your capacity to reason. You are not glorifying the infinite when you are sick, frustrated, neurotic, unhappy, or poverty-stricken. Faith without works is dead. You must demonstrate your faith in God and God's riches. They must appear in your home, in your body, in your art, in your science, in your business, and all phases of your life. You are here to reproduce what you really believe in. You are here to dramatize, portray, and express in your life that which is true of the infinite. It is a magnificent prayer and superb spiritual strategy to say, with comprehension, God's will be done, particularly when you understand the spiritual significance of these words. If you enthrone in your mind the definite idea that God's will is operating in all your affairs, this constructive belief in your mind will govern your life and cause you to act and express yourself as you believe. Your dominant conviction dictates, governs, and controls your entire life. When you know that the light and love of God are guiding and governing you in all your ways, you are automatically protected from making errors in judgment, unwise decisions, and wasting your time and effort along useless lines of endeavor. When you animate that desire of yours, that idea, nourish it, sustain it, feel the reality, rejoice in it, realize the almighty power is backing you up. Gradually, that will gel in your subconscious mind. Like a seed, it will die and come forth as the joy of the answered prayer. Then, your will or your wish has become God's will and becomes embodied in your deeper mind. Chapter 4. The Fourth Way to Pray. The book of Daniel says, And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered, and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. The 4th man in the fiery furnace is the consciousness of God, your awareness of the living Spirit Almighty within you. It means you are in an exalted state of mind. You are in tune with the infinite. The ancient scripture says, Water wets it not, fire burns it not, wind blows it not away, and swords pierce it not. When you are in a certain state of mind, a higher spiritual dimension, fire does not burn you, and poisons do not kill. Ethel Ralston, the great English electrical scientist, wrote in a scientific paper about an experience of one of his associates, who, in a clairvoyant vision, saw an airplane come out of the clouds in flames. It burned about 100 feet from the ground, then cracked and fell. She knew this was going to take place. She knew the place and the time. She looked about to see what the aviators were like. She couldn't distinguish anything about them. They were burned to a cinder. She went to the house of a friend that overlooked a field. At 2:30, she asked the lady of the house to come up and help her. The two stood there praying. Suddenly the airplane, which she had seen in a clairvoyant vision, came out, aflame. It burned and cracked, just as she had seen in her vision. There were 2 men in it, and they were absolutely untouched. It was like the case of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were not even singed. One of them said, I was about to throw myself out when suddenly a sense of absolute peace and safety came, and I sat back in the machine. There he was in a furnace. That man turned out to be the son of the lady she had asked to come up and help her. There are many such cases recorded all over the world. The 3 men mentioned in Daniel represent faith, love, and understanding. Faith, of course, means your definite belief that there is a response from infinite intelligence when you call upon it. Love in the Bible means allegiance, loyalty, and devotion to the one power, for there is only one power. I am, and there is no one else. You put the Creator first in your life. That's called love in the Bible. Understanding means you stand on your confidence, trust, and insight into the working of the law, knowing whatever you believe in your heart will come to pass. The 4th way to pray is to contemplate the presence of God, the infinite within you. There cannot be 2 infinites. Infinity cannot be divided or multiplied. The 2 women mentioned by Ralston prayed by practicing the presence of God where the plane was. In other words, they contemplated the presence of love, peace, harmony, beauty, and divine right action. And in their minds and hearts, immersed these men in the holy omnipresence, bathed by the light of God, and they succeeded in saving their lives. Had they had 100% realization, which means to make it real, they could have saved the plane also. Joseph Chilton Pearce, a research scholar, in his writings states that in Surrey, England, in 1935 and 1936, the English Society for Psychical Research ran a series of tests on 2 Indian fakirs imported expressly for the purpose. Physicians, chemists, physicists, and psychologists of Oxford and Cambridge graded the tests. The Indians walked the fire under controlled conditions, under the skeptical and probing eyes of science itself. No chemicals were used, no preparations made. They repeated the performances under a variety of conditions and over a period of several weeks on demand. Surface temperatures were between 4,500 to 5,000 degrees Celsius. The interior temperature was 14,000 degrees Celsius. There was no trickery or hallucination. Mr. Pierce pointed out that a high point was reached when one of the fakirs noticed a professor of psychology avidly intrigued and dumbfounded. The fakirs, sensing the longing, told the professor he too could walk the fire if he so desired. Told the professor he too could walk the fire if he so desired by holding the fakir's hand. The professor was seized with faith that he could. He shed his shoes, and hand in hand they walked the fire, ecstatic and unharmed. Faith is an attitude of mind. It's a way of thinking. It's faith in the creative power, the one power that responds to you when called upon. All of us know fire burns, but when you tune in with the infinite and reach a high state of consciousness, you are immune. In the Psychic Digest, there appeared the following article. Not many people know that Virginia Graham's success in her famous TV Girl Talk show came after she licked terminal cancer and made medical history. Her doctor explained the miracle. He said Virginia purified her bloodstream with her thoughts. Actually, this came about as a result of Virginia's fervent prayer when she knew she would be healed and would live. I have a surviving point of view, she claims. I am not interested in sinking or floating. This love of life communicates itself and is probably one of the reasons for the success of her TV show Climbing to the Top. It is true, of course, many die of terminal cancer. But she decided to believe in another way and established a new construct in her mind. An altered state of consciousness brought about the healing. Ms. Graham lived for another 40 years, dying in 1998 at the age of 86. You may have a wonderful knowledge of science, philosophy, and be devoutly religious, but all these three fail time and again to solve the problems of men and women in this world. All of us should turn to the supreme intelligence within, the self-originating spirit, and let that presence and power coordinate all our activities and direct our lives to ways of pleasantness and paths of peace. When Charles Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic, he was a pioneer. He did not have a co-pilot, radio, or parachute, and was guided only by a compass. During the flight, he slept with his eyes wide open and experienced the functioning of the higher powers within him, controlling his mind and body, which directed the flight and prodded him to activity when necessary. When his conscious, reasoning mind was suspended in sleep, he became aware of transparent forms riding with him. He felt that he was guided by phantom-like beings that were very friendly, spoke with human qualities, and gave him rare information on navigation, and reassured and comforted him all the way. Yet he was sound asleep. He was immobilized, but his subconscious mind took over. These friendly images had no rigid bodies, yet they remained human in outline form. Lindbergh could not focus his attention on his route, yet when he awakened, he sighted Ireland, and was only a few miles off his course. He had a fourth-dimensional experience which saved his life. That's the fourth way to pray. Learn all the science you can. It's very important. Get a good philosophy of life. It gives you poise, balance, serenity, and tranquility. Get a religion that you believe in. A religion should give you joy, happiness, peace of mind, and security. Remember, you must demonstrate what you believe. But when you meet with some great difficulty or challenge and you find that all you know and believe does not solve it, turn to the divine presence within you, that absolute being, the living Spirit Almighty, knowing in your heart that it is all-wise, omnipotent, supreme, omniscient. It knows only the answer, and before you call, the answer is there. It's the ever-living one, the all-wise one, the all-knowing one, the self-renewing one, the self-perpetuating one. Eddie Rickenbacker was adrift on a raft in the ocean. He called on the universal presence and power, and a gull came on his shoulder for food. And also rain came to quench his thirst. He was protected and rescued in divine order. Religion, philosophy, his religious beliefs, his philosophy, and his science didn't save him. But when he called upon the universal presence and power, which is omnipresent and ever-present help in time of trouble, it responded to him. The fourth way takes in all the knowledge of science, philosophy, and religion, plus an awareness and exalted recognition of the presence of God and humankind. Science is constantly changing. Some years ago, Robert Millikan of California Institute of Technology pointed out that the dogma of immutable elements is gone. It went with the discovery of radioactivity. Today we are dealing with a universe of density, frequencies, and intensities. It is a changing, evolving, dynamic, living universe. Everything in the universe is alive. Different degrees of aliveness or livingness, different degrees of intelligence. So the more intelligence that is resurrected in humankind, the greater measure of freedom exists. The two fundamental principles, conservation of mass and conservation of energy, are now gone as distinct and separable verities. Dr. Millikan pointed that out years ago. Einstein said that matter was energy reduced to the point of visibility. Energy is a term used by scientists for spirit or God. Today, energy and mass are interconvertible and interchangeable. Medicine is rapidly changing. Dr. Rubenstein of UCLA, in an article in the Los Angeles Times, said that the medicine of just a few years ago is completely outmoded due to rapid advances in science and technology, and that the doctor practicing according to just what was learned when he or she was in medical school is completely out of date and may be dangerous. Chemistry and physics are rapidly undergoing a transformation, so much so that the textbooks of a few years ago are out of date now. Religion is changing all over the world. Dogmatism means to assert something without knowledge. It's to assert something that every scientist knows is false, such as the 6 days of creation, and God rested on the seventh, and Adam and Eve are the first parents in the Garden of Eden. All that is just a parable. The Garden of Eden is your own subconscious mind. Adam and Eve is your conscious and subconscious mind. And harmonious interaction of your conscious and subconscious minds brings forth health, happiness, peace, abundance, and security. Dogmatism is the attitude of a closed mind. It is foolish to talk about the 6 days of creation or the rotation of the sun about the earth. People believed the earth was flat at one time. Some people still do. The tree of life is the living presence almighty within you. The tree of good and evil represents good and bad thoughts or ideas that, like a tree, become fixed and grow up into opinions, fixations, prejudices, and fears. The good ideas grow up too, such as a belief in the golden rule, the law of love and kindness, honesty and integrity. So the good and evil are within ourselves. So the tree of life, the tree of good and evil, are within all of us. Voltaire said, "If God did not exist, it would be necessary to invent him." Science has made wonderful strides, has been a great boon and blessing to humankind. In ancient times in Europe, when a plague hit a city, the priest would carry the host in a procession, pour holy water on the streets and sprinkle it on the people. There isn't any such thing as holy water. Water is just H2O. It's the same water in Lourdes as in your tap. There is no difference. Science came along and introduced sanitation and hygiene, saving countless lives. Lister, Pasteur, and other researchers, through their discoveries, caused doctors to adopt sterilization procedures in hospitals, thereby saving countless lives. Prior to that, people died like flies on the hospital table. We have had wonderful philosophers such as Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Emerson, William James, Kant, Plotinus, and many, many others. They have set forth marvelous truths, but philosophy is not of much use unless we put it into practice. Down through the ages, we had frightful religious wars. Philosophers have argued among themselves. Science has not been able to solve the problems of the world. Each one is necessary and useful, but all three, science, philosophy, and religion, such as creed, dogma, and tradition, have failed miserably to bring peace to the troubled mind. We have had wars down through the ages, and will continue to have them as long as humankind is what it is, until we awaken to the presence and power of God within us, and realize the 6 billion people in this world are simply extensions of ourselves. There is only one mind. Then we will realize that whatever we wish or think about another, we are creating in our own minds, bodies, pocketbooks, and circumstances. Then, when we awaken to that simple truth, we will pour forth our benediction on all humankind. We won't want to steal, rob, cheat, or defraud. There will be no avarice in our hearts, because we realize that whatever we can claim and feel to be true, the Spirit will give it to us. Theologians talk about God instead of teaching men and women to experience God in their own hearts. There are many good, kind, religious people. They follow all the tenets, rules, and regulations of their churches. They are conventionally good, but they suffer miserably in hospitals and mental institutions. They believe in personal saviors and so on. You are your own savior. You answer your own prayer. Whatever you impress on your subconscious is expressed as form, function, experience, and event. Of course, you answer your own prayer. If you do not know that, you are living in the Dark Ages. You are a medievalist in your thinking. You are living in the jungle. From an external standpoint, this is true, that these so-called good people follow the liturgies and standards of their religious beliefs. But the law of mind is, as a man thinketh in his heart, or subconscious, so is he. So does he act, so does he experience, so does he become. It is a deep-seated belief in your subconscious that is made manifest. What you really believe in your heart is what you experience. If you believe in failure, even if you work very hard, you will fail. You might be very good. You might be kind to the poor, visit hospitals, tithe, and do all these things. But it's what you believe in your heart that is made manifest, not what you give theoretical assent to. It is not your nominal belief, but is the belief in the heart that matters. It is your emotional espousals that are made manifest. For example, a person may go to church every day and receive sacraments, but if that person expects reverses, or fears the flu, or fears some sickness, or fears failure, all these things will be experienced by him or her, for the law of the Lord is perfect, and you can't think negatively and experience constructively and harmoniously. Many people may get 100% in their philosophical examination, yet their lives are chaotic. They can quote Plato and Aristotle and Emerson. They take Emerson in school as literature. If you follow the ideas of Emerson, you will be walking in the light. You'd be walking along the shores of reality. You'd experience the moment that lasts forever. Emerson said, "Man is what he thinks all day long. If your soul is erect," he said, "all goes well." This means if you exalt God in the midst of you, and he called it the great oversoul within. These philosophical ideas, you see, are not assimilated, appropriated, digested, or incorporated in their subconscious mind. Head knowledge is not heart knowledge. Science, philosophy, and religion are necessary. Each is doing good in its own way. But don't forget to embrace them all under the banner of the presence of God in you, the almighty power. An Air Force doctor who had served in Vietnam told me that he parachuted out of his plane and found himself in the jungle and dressed his own wounds. He had knowledge of science, and he studied the philosophies of the world. He began to pray as follows: "I know God or Spirit is within me. It is all wise and is leading me to safety now." He said he knew that infinite intelligence would respond. A few minutes later, he said, his brother appeared to him and said, "I will order the medics to come for you. They will be here in a half hour." In a half hour, the medics came on the scene and rescued him. He asked, "How did you know I was here?" They explained that an officer appeared and gave them exact instructions. He said, "Describe him," and they did, and the description fit his brother exactly. His brother had been killed in action a year previously. This is the fourth way. The answer comes in ways you know not of. You could call that a thought form that has a capacity to speak, or some people would say it is a fourth-dimensional being. Anyhow, he was capable of giving direction. He said, "I was not asleep. I was consciously aware. I heard the voice, and it was all real." That has happened more than once, for the ways are past finding out. Now, this doctor's science, philosophy, and nominal religious belief could not rescue him. But there is a spirit within us, and the breath of the Almighty hath given him life, and he experienced it. You can't take away that experience from him. He tasted the Lord and found him good. So these truths were incorporated in his soul. In the book of Daniel it says, "Thy God, whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee." The story of Daniel is the story of all people, everywhere. It is a story about you. It is said that Daniel, while in the lion's den, turned his back on the beast and turned towards the light within. The lions were powerless to hurt him. Understanding this drama enables you to extricate yourself from that acute problem in your life. I remember a soldier telling me that bullets were all around him, coming in all directions, and he said, "The only thing I could remember was a prayer at my mother's knee. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." He said he didn't even know the meaning of it, but he recalled a few verses. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul." These few words he remembered, and in his extremity, he turned to this power. And all of a sudden, lightning came, and a terrific flood. Yes, a terrific storm. The rain came down in torrents, and the bullets ceased. He found his way to safety. There was an answer, a response, from the infinite intelligence. Remember, Daniel is you. When faced with a threatening situation, he turned his back on the lions and looked for a solution, a way out through the power of the Almighty within him. Many people, when they have a problem, look at the problem, argue about it, talk about it, and magnify it. They magnify it exceedingly in their life. It engulfs them. Turn away like Daniel from your problem. Concentrate on a solution through the power of the Almighty. Focus your attention upon it. As you do, the power of the Almighty will respond. Lions in the Bible represent seemingly insoluble situations of a threatening nature. In every problem lies a solution. In every question, there is an answer. Turn away from the problem. Focus your attention on the solution. By claiming and feeling the reality of your desire, continue in this belief, knowing that an almighty power is moving on your behalf. The realization of your desire is like dropping a seed into prepared soil in your garden. Your desire for freedom from your problem is a seed you deposit in your subconscious mind, confident that it shall appear in its full-blown potential, as all seeds grow after their kind. Do not worry or be anxious about the way the answer comes, as the ways of your subconscious are past finding out. Your consciousness, or awareness, is the only presence and power, the eternal cause of all creation. Create a new heaven, a new mental attitude, and a new earth will appear. Remember, God is an ever-present help in time of trouble. You dwell in the secret place. You abide in the shadow of the Almighty. You will say of the Lord, He is your refuge, your fortress. My God, in Him will you trust. He covers you with His feathers, and under His wings shall you rest. And the truth of God shall be your shield, and also your buttress. Because you set His love upon you, He will prepare a place for you in the homeland of eternity and guide you to safety. Remember these words: Thou art my hiding place. Thou shalt preserve me. Thou shalt compass me about with songs of deliverance, now and forevermore. In a nutshell, the fourth way to pray is to contemplate the presence of God, the infinite within you. There cannot be two infinites. Infinity cannot be divided or multiplied. When you meet with some great difficulty or challenge and you find that all you know and believe does not solve it, turn to the divine presence within you, that absolute being, the living Spirit Almighty, knowing in your heart that it is all-wise, omnipotent, supreme, omniscient. It knows only the answer, and before you call, the answer is there. It's the ever-living one, the all-wise one, the all-knowing one, the self-renewing one, the self-perpetuating one. The fourth way takes in all the knowledge of science, philosophy, and religion, plus an awareness and exalted recognition of the presence of God in humankind. The tree of life is the living presence almighty within you. The tree of good and evil represents good and bad thoughts or ideas that, like a tree, become fixed and grow up into opinions, fixations, prejudices, and fears. The good ideas grow up too, such as a belief in the golden rule, the law of love and kindness, honesty and integrity. So, the good and evil are within ourselves. So the tree of life, the tree of good and evil, are within all of us. Whatever we wish or think about another, we are creating in our own minds, bodies, pocketbooks, and circumstances. Then, when we awaken to that simple truth, we will pour forth our benediction to all humankind. We won't want to steal, rob, cheat, or defraud. There will be no avarice in our hearts because we realize that whatever we can claim and feel to be true, the Spirit will give it to us. You are your own Savior. You answer your own prayer. Whatever you impress on your subconscious is expressed as form, function, experience, and event. Of course, you answer your own prayer. It is a deep-seated belief in your subconscious that is made manifest. What you really believe in your heart is what you experience. If you believe in failure, even if you work very hard, you will fail. You might be very good. You might be kind to the poor, visit hospitals, tithe, and do all these things. But it's what you believe in your heart that is made manifest, not what you give theoretical assent to. It is not your nominal belief, but is the belief in the heart that matters. Many people, when they have a problem, look at the problem, argue about it, talk about it, and magnify it. They magnify it exceedingly in their life. It engulfs them. Turn away, like Daniel, from your problem. Concentrate on the solution through the power of the Almighty. Focus your attention upon it. As you do, the power of the Almighty will respond. Chapter 5. Science and Religion. Some years ago, Dr. Charles Littlefield, a distinguished scientist, tried to create life. He succeeded in releasing spontaneous life in some chemicals that were reduced to saline proportions. But God is life. Life has no beginning or end. It was never born. It will never die. So Dr. Littlefield realized nobody could create life. All that is possible is to bring certain chemicals together in certain proportions in a test tube and release life, which already exists. He also discovered the truth of the biblical statement, "As a man thinketh in his heart," that is, his subconscious mind, "so is he." While concentrating on a saline solution by peering through a microscope, he discovered that his focused thought took form. One day he concentrated his attention on a frail elderly lady. He stood gazing intently at her for some time. When he turned back to look at the saline solution, he was surprised to find a miniature form of this woman. Day after day he concentrated on certain mental pictures, and he was amazed to see his mental imagery take form in the shapes developed by the crystals in the saline solution under the microscope. That's why you are what you think all day long. That's why your thought is creative. Your thoughts become cells, tissues, muscle, and bone. Your thoughts are the tools and instruments that fashion, mold, and shape your destiny. Your thoughts can be photographed. That's scientifically true today. They have form, shape, and structure in your brain, and they are gradually being condensed into muscle, skin, and cells, as well as experiences, events, and conditions. There is a revolution going on today in the field of chemistry and physics. The chemistry that was taught in college years ago is outmoded, antiquated, and completely irrelevant to modern discoveries. For example, the postulate of immutable elements is gone. There is only one substance today. The only difference between any substances in the world is the number and rate of motion of electrons around a nucleus. Everything today is vibration, density, frequencies, and intensities. The whole world is a world of vibration. So the dogma of immutable elements disappeared through the discovery of radioactivity. Scientists today point out that we are in a living, dynamic, changing, evolving universe. Everything is alive. In our periodicals, magazines, and newspapers of today, we are reading about the discoveries of modern science. Dr. Robert Andrew Millikan, who was head of the California Institute of Technology at Pasadena for many years, said that the two fundamental principles, conservation of mass and conservation of energy, are now gone as distinct and separable verities. Einstein and other scientists have also pointed out the interconvertibility of energy into mass and mass into energy. Energy is a term used by scientists for spirit, which is, of course, God. God is spirit. God is worshipped in spirit and in truth. So, spirit is without face, form, or figure. That spirit is within you. In other words, our modern scientists are saying that energy and mass are one. The ancient Upanishads said 10,000 years ago, matter is the lowest degree of spirit, and spirit is the highest degree of matter. Modern science is saying the same thing today. I read an article in which someone asked Einstein what matter was. He replied, energy reduced to the point of visibility. Conceptions of the conservation of energy and conservation of mass are considered no longer sacrosanct. Your body is plastic, porous, and viable. It consists of waves of light vibrating at different rates of vibration. Modern science teaches that the only difference between one substance and another is the number and rate of motion of electrons revolving around a nucleus, proving the dictum of Pythagoras that number and motion rule the world. There were scientists in the 19th century who were under the impression that all great discoveries in physics had already been made. Some said that all we had to do was make more exact quantitative measurements upon the old phenomena. We cannot measure love with a ruler or weigh it on a scale. Can you measure life, peace, or beauty? Can you measure happiness, wisdom, understanding, illumination, or inspiration? We are dealing with the intangible, the invisible, and the immeasurable. When you lift it, it's the unseen lifting the chair. It's not your fingers. You cannot see the power that moves your finger to write. Surely you do not think the finger moves itself. The body moves as moved upon. The body acts as acted upon. Your body is characterized by inertia, and your thoughts, emotions, and imagery are played upon it for good or ill. You can play on your body a melody of God, or you can play a hymn of hate. You will find that the dogma of many religious groups asserts or affirms some things to be true which are completely contradicted by modern scientific findings. There are people living in this country today who take the Bible literally and believe the world was created in 6 days and that God somehow got tired and rested on the seventh day. It is only a parable. Geologists, paleontologists, archaeologists, anthropologists, physicists, astronomers, and other scientists realized that the cosmos took form according to a definite cosmic design and took countless millions of years to assume the form it now has. All these changes took place in divine order and sequence according to an archetypal design of the infinite intelligence, which is the only creative power. Judge Troward, who lived in India for many years, a great student of all religions of the world, and a marvelous intuitive individual, wrote many textbooks on the science of the mind. This is what he said. The physical history of our planet shows us first an incandescent nebula dispersed over vast infinitudes of space. Later, this condenses into a central sun, surrounded by a family of glowing planets, hardly yet consolidated from the plastic primordial matter. Then succeed untold millennia of slow geological formations, and Earth peopled by the lowest forms of life, whether vegetable or animal, from which crude beginnings, a majestic, unceasing, unhurried, forward movement brings things stage by stage to the conditions in which we know them now. A great number of modern scientists today agree with Troward, who wrote that way back in 1900. It was an intuitive perception of the truths of the Bible. You could look at the 6 days of creation as 6 great stages in the evolution of the cosmos. The story in Genesis also portrays the 6 steps in prayer. 6 days means simply the length of time it takes you to impregnate your subconscious with your desire or idea. The seventh day is the Sabbath, meaning a certitude, a conviction, when you know that your prayer is answered. It's an interval of time between the impregnation and the manifestation. That's called the Sabbath in the Bible. It has nothing to do with Sunday, or Monday, or Saturday, or any day. There is also a spiritual esoteric meaning to all parts of the Bible, and unless you understand the inner meaning, we actually have no Bible at all. In psychological parlance, the 6 days represent the length of time it takes you to take that marvelous idea you have, or concept, and emotionalize it, and feel it to be true. It might take you a minute, an hour, or several days. As soon as you succeed in impregnating the subconscious by imagining the reality of your desire and feeling the thrill of fulfillment, you impress the subconscious mind. Because you're at rest, you no longer seek that which you have. And when your desire or idea dies in your subconscious mind, like a seed dies in the ground, bequeaths its energy to another form of itself. Your prayer is the same thing. As long as you desire it, you haven't impregnated your subconscious mind. Therefore, if you think of your ideal with interest, envelop it in love, it will sink into your subconscious and come to pass. The modern physicist, astronomer, or scientist cannot afford to have a closed mind. New discoveries and revelations are compelling scientists to discard the old mechanistic and materialistic concepts of the 19th century, and dynamically reveal that we are living in an ever-changing, fluidic universe of dancing forces, that the whole universe is a mental phenomenon. Sir James Jeans, physicist and astronomer in England, who was knighted for his work, said that after 40 years of research, he was convinced that the whole universe was simply a thought of the infinite being thinking mathematically, orderly, and sequentially. The Upanishad said thousands of years ago that God thinks and worlds appear. So the whole world is a thought of God. The new nuclear physics, with great courage and faith, had, without hesitation, discarded the gross atomistic concepts of yesterday. These scientists have demonstrated their own miracles, such as nuclear transubstantiation, time-space fusion, television, radio, atomic energy, space travel, and so on. Scientists kneel and pray before the altar of being. In materia medica circles, it is customary to discard the textbooks of yesterday's pathologies and nostrums. Likewise, you must discard old superstitions and false beliefs about an avenging God, hell, purgatory, devil, evil forces, the language and verbiage of years ago. We must understand these things today in simple language. Realize that all these are simply states of mind created by our ancestors due to their ignorance and lack of understanding. Arrive at the hour of decision in your own mind, where none but the best wine of spiritual wisdom shall be put forth for the guests who hunger for a more wholesome fare. Become an open-minded seeker after truth. When you say that God is punishing you or that God will judge you on the last day, you must ask yourself such questions as follows. Where did such an idea come from? Who said it? Why was it said? What's the origin of it? Is there any sense or meaning to it? Is it contrary to the laws of life and the way of the Spirit? Is it illogical, unreasonable, and unscientific? Is it contrary to the laws of nature? If so, it's absolutely false. Ask yourself, have I been brainwashed since my youth? Am I hypnotized? A victim of ignorance, superstition, and fear? Where did such ideas originate? Primitive people, not knowing where God was, originated and postulated God outside themselves. Furthermore, in the primitive state of mind, they attributed to God all passions, such as jealousy, hate, envy, anger, etc., which they found within themselves. Primitive and prehistoric people realized that they were subject to forces over which they had no control. The sun gave them heat and also scorched the earth. The fire burned them. The thunder terrified them. The water flooded their land and the cattle were drowned. Their idea of external powers was the primitive and fundamental type of every idea of God, for these elements were forces of nature. Love or aversion, fear and hope, gave rise to the first idea of religion. Primitive people in their infantile reasoning perceived that when a stronger person was about to injure them, they were able to bribe that person, offer certain gifts, and other ways abase themselves, therefore mollifying the other's attitude. From this crude reasoning, they proceeded to supplicate the intelligence of the winds, the stars, the waters, hoping they would hear them and answer their prayers. They proceeded to make offerings and sacrifices to the gods of the winds and the rain. The first people conceived the universe to be filled with innumerable gods. Their ideas of God were divided according to the sensations of pleasure and pain, and derived solely from the forces of nature. They divided the gods and genii into beneficent and malignant powers. Hence the universality of these two characters in all systems of religion. There is only one power. When you use it constructively, harmoniously, and peacefully, you call it God, health, and happiness. When you use it ignorantly, stupidly, and maliciously, you call it the devil, Satan, liar in wait, misery, suffering, misfortune, and so on. There is only one power. Thinking in the heart is subconscious. It's your deep-seated beliefs, your emotional espousals that govern you and control you. Whatever idea or belief is dominant in your subconscious mind this morning takes control of your thoughts, your actions and reactions. What is the dominant idea in your mind? If you believe in failure, that a jinx is following you, you can't succeed. You can work 18 hours a day, work very hard, but you still will fail because that's the dominant idea in your mind. And according to your belief, is it done unto you? It's the science of the mind. If you believe that the weather gives you a cold, you have installed a false belief in your mind. That's a false god. It governs you. Some people believe in a jinx following them. Because they believe it to be true, that belief governs them. Their jinx is their fears, superstitions enthroned in their minds, created by themselves. You can rely on the laws of mind. Think good, and good follows. Think evil, and evil follows. There is a science of chemistry, space science, science of mathematics, physics, and so on. There is a science of the mind, too, or divine science, knowledge of your divinity. It's not concerned wholly with the material or objective world, but it's also subjective.
All right, you guys.
And can be
Alexa, pause. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and end for today. Please remember to subscribe to my YouTube, follow me on TikTok, and if you so choose to, please send a donation so that I can continue to provide these audiobooks. All right, you guys, thank you so much and have a great day.